it's like everything else in life, really, isn't it? If you haven't lived it, you can't talk about it.
Welcome to Island Influencers, where we share stories of successful business owners, experienced professionals, entrepreneurs and community leaders based or with influence in the Isle of Man. This podcast is brought to you by Thornton Chartered Financial Planners, because great financial planning has the power to change your life. Now here's your host, Chartered Financial Planner Sharon Sutton.
Here we are in the Cabinet Office, and a bit of sunlight on the wood block floors with the odd damp patch from a misfiring hand sanitizer. Would not happen in my day with soap on a rope, but that's progress with modern technology. Amazing.
Welcome to this week's Island Influencers, and my guest this week is Roy Moore from Manx Radio's TT commentary fame, and he's also a star of Mountain Memories series on Facebook with Barry Wood. He's also the former Isle of Man golf champion. And starting out with some ambitions to be a gardener, Roy's life, along with the racetrack, has taken many twists and turns. Along with his wife of 46 years, Jenny, he's raised two boys, Peter and Kevin, and his love of the Isle of Man is obvious. Roy shares some fabulous memories from across the decades. And for all you TT fans out there who are, let's face it, a little bit starved of action from the mountain course, listen out for some special TT commentary coming to you from Roy Moore at Ramsey Hairpin on lap 3 of the lockdown. All of this in episode 42 of Island Influencers. Welcome, Roy. Welcome to Island Influencers. It's a real pleasure to have you on the programme. The star of Manx Radio's TT commentary team, or one of them. So, it's lovely to have you.
Yeah, well, it is a team really too. I think people get carried away sometimes by saying the voice of the TT and all that. There's been quite a few voices of the TT over the years, but they've always been part of a team as well. And I'm proud actually, because in the past we've had people who have come over to be part of the commentary team, and they might know a little bit about the bikes. They certainly know about the riders, but they don't know the history.
Yeah, no.
And it's like everything else in life, really, isn't it? If you haven't lived it, you can't talk about it.
No. So, Roy, for the benefit of our listeners, tell us about your growing up in the island. You know, where you've come from, what you've been up to during to this point.
Straightforward enough, really. I was a war baby. People will be sniggering when they hear about a war baby, but there's lots of war babies about. The birth rate went up in 1947, or from the end of 1946. February the 2nd, I popped out, and it was a bit of a snowy day, apparently, and caused a lot of upset in the family. I had two elder brothers, and they were much older as well. My elder brother Ken was 13 years older than me, and at the time that I was born, my second brother Brian was 9, so I was a bit of a surprise. But I caused a lot of upset, really, because my second brother Brian, he wanted a girl. Oh. And then they had to go and tell him that it was a boy and it was a brother for him, and he got so upset he went down to his auntie's, I think, and stayed there for 2 or 3 nights with the upset that it had all caused.
Oh gosh!
Yeah, but 2nd of February, I watched my first TT in the June of 1947.
Of course you did.
I don't remember much about it, but apparently it caused a lot of... We used to push at the pram to Hotchkiss's nurseries. Again, when you're talking about businesses on the Isle of Man, if you're of a certain age on the island, you'll immediately think of Hotchkiss's nurseries. But
right.
Like many other things, complexes have grown up, and now it's Mountain View. But during the war, as Uncle Albert would have said, the Hotchkiss's nursery was a vital link. Tomatoes and anything could be grown.
More of grocery supplies as opposed to your petunias and...
Oh, yeah, it wasn't... they used to make wreaths, and they had a shop in the street and all that, but they were vital link for the war years, which you only find out about later. But Hotchkiss's nursery, the Gilbertson twins, all round there. I didn't know it at the time, but when I became kind of active, if you can call it that, you don't remember much about when you're getting pushed in the pram to watch TT races, but certainly later on, I suppose your mind would be going, why are these 2 people always, or 3 people always round at our house? And it worked out that we were, my mother and Auntie Jess, as I knew her, were off a second marriage.
Ah, okay.
So I had 3 aunties But then I only had one proper auntie, if you know what I mean.
I absolutely do know what you mean. Yep.
And they were, I didn't know it at the time either, they were famous on the island, or Uncle Jack was, Jack Cannell.
Right.
Jeff, at the time, hadn't made his mark in Manx history, but certainly Uncle Jack had. He'd competed in the Manx Grand Prix.
Gosh.
Yeah, married Auntie Jess, and certainly his biggest claim to fame, I suppose, would be involved in the filming of No Limit.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was...
it was a big thing. And where we are,
Yes.
situated where you're, it's between 2 points, which he was involved in.
Yeah.
The story goes, and again, you remember these things from family history. When you do become 7 or 8, it's not a problem to remember back if you can keep your faculties about you. And Uncle Jack would be constantly talking about bikes. And then, of course, Jeff, who was older than me as well, he was the same age as Brian, so that 9 years difference meant that he was ahead of me as well when I was 5 or 6.
Right,
he
okay.
was 10, 11.
Yes, how did you get into the motorbiking then?
Well, that didn't take much really working out because the subject was always motorbikes.
Yeah.
Or, in the house, they were always talking about Ken did well at the weekend.
Right.
Or as my mother always called him, fact of life, innit, Kenneth.
Yeah.
Never, through all my lifetime, I can remember saying Kenneth's coming in, Kenneth, the proper word. And Ken Moore, when you look at the records that him and a chap called Alec Coward set in the early 50s, 52, 53. So I would only be 4 or 5 at the time.
Yeah.
But I can remember certain things about it, about the green final coming and everything getting cut out and put in a scrapbook.
Yeah, isn't it funny the earliest memories you have when you grow up in the Isle of Man? I remember, I think, memory being about a 3.5-year-old running down Albert Road shouting, Castini's won, Castini. I didn't know it was Agostini. Why would I? But I do remember Alex George breaking down at the Conkerfields because we were at a picnic out there. Of course, I don't think you're not allowed to spectate there anymore now. It's far too dangerous. But,
that likes the things, isn't it?
So
but Ken in the cycling, he was top man, like, and set records which stood for a long, long time.
So this was cycling, not motorcycling?
No, cycling.
Yeah.
And then, of course...
And Alec Coward, you mentioned,
Coward,
who was still doing 10-mile time trials up until about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, he was best man at Ken's wedding, and they were great friends right through. Because, again, another fact of life that you think about, I had 2 brothers, and then all of a sudden we were living in Park Avenue. I had a granny who lived down in Lee Terrace, so we were constantly going backwards and forwards there. Mm-hmm. So Park Avenue with Hotchkiss's nursery, the TT, Uncle Jack take me by the hand and going over to watch the bikes.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Inevitable, And then you go down to Lee Terrace and you've got all this holiday attraction of Douglas Head, the rowing boats going up and down Lee Terrace. Yeah. And you could tell what season it was. If they were going up to the boatyard to get turned upside down. All of a sudden, my 2 brothers disappeared and I couldn't work it out.
So what happened?
We'd moved from... my grandmother died and she owned Park Avenue. So therefore, we had to get out from the house for it to be sold. So we then had looking for rented accommodation. And Prospect Terrace opened up a whole new chapter as well.
Yeah, it's a fact of life that back then, most Manx people didn't own their own house at all.
It was hard enough trying to live when you looked at what was going on, to do it. The old man was an entrepreneur, I suppose you could call him in those days. If you're talking about business like trying hard to do business, he went through the mill really early on. He was a mechanic by trade, born in Glenmay, moved to Douglas. His mother just decided one day they were going to live in Douglas, and up they went, and down into Douglas they went to 1 Grafton Street. So that was another address I became accustomed to. But at the same time, he was always experimenting with stuff. He got rack from the beach and boiled it down and made a kind of a rheumatism rub. He made crisps, he made firelighters, he sold fish from the back of a van with Uncle Jack.
Gosh.
So when it comes to talking about why I'm here, I suppose I can kind of claw onto that and say, well,
he should have been a millionaire by this time.
We could have been millionaires, but we weren't. Yeah. In fact, it probably went the other way, that we were you're always envied anybody who had anything else, like push bikes and stuff like that. But I don't regret that it worked out like that, because it gives you a different complex on life.
No, so the fact that growing up in the Isle of Man back then was hard.
Tough.
So you had to, I suppose, improvise. So what did you do when you left school? Did you figured out you weren't going to follow a path into sport because it didn't pay enough? But you seem to be a bit of a sportsman throughout your life, because I happen to know that you won the Isle of Man Golf Championships on at least one occasion.
Yeah, at least one occasion. It was we don't talk about that too much.
Well, no, go on. So how did you get into golf? Because it's completely different from two wheels and shooting guns, isn't it?
Prospect Terrace.
Yeah.
My brothers left. They'd gone to do their national service, I was told.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know what it was about.
Oh, right.
The only thing I knew was they'd gone to Germany, one in the RAF, one in the Army.
Yeah.
And they brought these lovely toys home at Christmas when they came home on leave, if they could get home.
Okay.
Or in the case of one brother, whether he'd be allowed out of Jankers, as he used to call it, to come home. But then again, it might seem daft, but try to explain to somebody that you've got a beautiful Schuko toy, but there's not enough money to buy batteries to put in it. You used to get the big ever-ready batteries.
Schuko toy, what do you mean?
Well, the Schuko were the German builders of toys what you would die for in that era.
And they'd bring them home with them?
They'd bring them home because they were getting them at cheap rates.
Right, okay, because they were stationed there.
Stationed in Germany,
right.
So they were giveaway prices
right.
to
So they brought them
personnel.
back, but you couldn't afford the batteries
couldn't
for
afford
them?
the batteries.
Oh, gosh.
You'd have a battery on Christmas Day, and then you'd wear the blooming thing out.
It wouldn't last long, would it?
No, that would be it.
No. Oh, goodness me.
And it's difficult to explain that to somebody, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But then again, we were at Prospect Terrace, and that all happened. But my things, there's always a little thing that we always say. And again, we're in the vicinity of it all, because not far down the road, I can well remember, you used to have to run messages for your mother.
Right.
And one particular day in February, we took the old carrier bag and had to go up to Conabear's in Prospect Terrace to get spuds.
Yeah.
And I went in, and everybody was distressed, crying, all kinds of activity, which it's just alien to me. I couldn't understand what it was.
Yeah, how old would you have been then?
Well, it was 58, so I would have been 9 years of age.
Yeah.
I went back, told me mother, I got the spuds as it worked out, and went back, I said, there's all kinds of things going on. Of course, she was hot foot, no phones. In fact, when you're talking about that, the police were alerted by a blue box on the corner of by Lowey's, the newsagents, and if light was flashing on the top, then the policeman went to it.
Oh, right.
He had no connection.
Gosh.
Tell somebody now, well, why didn't you ring up on your mobile? Excuse me, this is 1958.
58. So what happened?
Well, she went up, and then she came back, and she was crying her eyes out as well. She said there's been a major aircraft crashed.
Oh, my goodness.
And there's estimated 35 people killed. And it had been a plane that had taken off from the island on a trade outing to the Exide Battery Company in wherever they were. But it had to fly over Winter Hill. Yeah. And it was misty, and it didn't quite make it. And tragedy.
Yeah, the Winter Hill disaster.
Yeah, the Winter Hill disaster of February 58. And
there was a lot of Manx motor
trade
company.
They were real Manx.
Yeah, I know.
Known around the island.
Yeah, sure.
Just the tragedy of it all. Yeah. Kenny Harding's brothers were lost. Yeah. 2 of them. Yeah. There were 2 survivors, I think. Norman Ennett, who's known to us still. Yeah. And a chap called Crosby from Crosby, Kane and Kinnish. Mm-hmm. And then there was all the stories that came out in the papers about the chap who didn't quite make it to Ronaldsway, and the plane left without him. And, it's often not talked about now, but at the same time, it's not far away now. And the memorial is down in the Arboretum. Gosh. Down, there's a special area
just down the road from here at the mill,
Yeah, but we'd moved then. We'd gone up to, when Prospect Terrace and activity around Lee Terrace, we'd gone up to Onken. And at the time, mid-50s, Uncle Jack was still about talking motorbikes. Yeah. Jeff was even more active because he'd started work.
Jeff Cannell, yeah.
Jeff Cannell. Yeah. And he became a compositor, which meant he put the papers together on a blooming thing, which you say, oh, well, why didn't he type it out? Yeah, he did type it out. Yes. But it made like a lead mould. Linotype operator. Mm. The Mona's Herald and the Courier. And then I don't think he ever worked for...
So that's how he became a journalist?
Yeah, because he was in a position where he could kind of write it as he was compositing it, or whatever they called it.
No, yeah.
And we would still, Uncle Jack was about. You don't know what happens in family life when you're younger, do you? But there'd been a lot of unrest. There was people were leaving and coming back and going and stopping and starting and that. And the old man, he followed on from his entrepreneurial ways. Coach driver, taxi driver. You never saw him. I didn't know why I didn't see him, but at the same time, my mother was very poorly, and Auntie Jess was around a lot with the sister bond. Mm-hmm. So Uncle Jack didn't go away, and he kept us posted about all the Manx Grand Prix and the TT and all that. And the snippets of information that he gave, you didn't digest like you do when you're young.
No.
If your mother and father are talking now, oh God, here we go again. when I, and it's talking about things that have no interest to you. But I must have digested it all. We lived in Avondale Road in Unken. The Cannell family lived in Nursery Avenue, just over the back. But when we went to 7 Avondale Road, they announced that the motorbikes were coming right past our door.
Oh, right, on the Clips course.
On the Clips course.
Yeah, okay.
So if you say, how do you get interested? So we had the Clips course, which we watched from our front garden. When somebody now asks you a question about the Clips course, it's not a case of reading it and then trying to digest it. It's because you lived it.
No, I can get... beginning to get that feeling about you, Roy,
It's that phase, you lived it. So when we were in Unken, prior to that, when we were at Prospect Terrace, there was an Irish fella used to come over that used to stay at Maggie's Chip Shop in Windsor Road. Mm-hmm. And he said, we're going to play golf today. They're like... So that's the best Irish impression I can get.
Okay, so he got you into it?
Into it.
Wow.
And where we played is actually a pitch and putt course, which was up at the back of the TT grandstand.
Okay.
Where the mass of parking is now, where they put all the tents up.
Right.
That was a golf course.
Right,
An 18-hole pitch and putt.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely jam-packed solid every day of life.
And how did you
visitors?
How did you get into the actual game? Did that just lead into that?
We went to Unken, and I never thought much more about it. And then we moved to Spring Valley.
Yeah.
And of course, Spring Valley and Douglas Golf Course aren't too far away.
No, that's right.
Illegally, because we couldn't afford green fees or anything like that. You'd be nipping on and you'd get a shout from somebody that you were trespassing, or get off there, or words to that effect.
So what about career moves? So I guess by this time you've kind of realised that you're good at a lot of golf. You're good at retaining information about motorbikes, things you're really keen on.
Yeah.
How did you go about making sure you could do that? What sort of day jobs did you get? What paid the bills for you?
Well, my elder brother came back from the national service.
From national service,
Dummy war.
Yeah.
And he came back from there, and he was a qualified electrician.
Okay.
And there was no work.
Right.
They were sending people from the Isle of Man to make sugar beet. And the other brother had served his time plastering houses in Williston.
Yeah.
And both of them were exceptional tradesmen and were a thing. But when he came back, there was no work, and he didn't drive, would you believe?
No, it was a common story.
So he had to kind of...
Amazing.
He had to kind of, not elope, what would be the thing? Yeah, he emigrated to Peel.
Oh,
to work
right.
for a fella called John Christian.
Right.
And he was an electrician, and they had enough work down there for him to do.
Yeah.
But then in the summer, John Christian operated, because there was loads of 59, there was loads of visitors visiting Peel. He operated the milk bar on the promenade.
The milk bar?
The milk bar.
Yeah,
and the souvenir shop next door.
Right, yeah.
The shy retiring brother that I knew as Ken suddenly became a shopkeeper.
So that would have been the era that the Isle of Man started to take off as a tourist centre up until the point when it became better to go to Spain, I suppose.
Yeah, it was another period of time where you'd been brought up at Lee Terrace with hundreds and hundreds of people, just masses of people going across the harbour on ferries, and fella playing the accordion and the violin, and then they would go out to Port Sodrick, and the pubs were busy, and there was the place called the Kit Kat Bar on the walk up to Unken Head. And
sounds like year-round TT.
Yeah, it was virtually. There was some... all kinds of happenings that I wasn't aware of going on, but at the same time it was of interest.
Yeah.
Then to Prospect Terrace, you were right slap bang in the middle of it again. Derby Square, Domain Road, all became boarding houses.
Yeah.
When the bikes arrived for the Grand Prix or the TT, they would be taking garages round about there in Allen Street, and you'd be going round scratching your head if you didn't get told to disperse yourself in many ways. Then you just became that you knew who the people were.
Yeah. So how did you meet Jenny?
Well, you see, this is another thing, isn't it, about the fact of life and that. We'd gone to Onken and then we went down to Spring Valley. That's where the golf started.
Yep.
I had ambitions to be a gardener.
Right,
So Billy Long's nursery for 9 years in Alexander Drive.
No chance of Hotchkisses then?
No, Hotchkisses was getting developed into a housing estate called Mountain View,
right.
like many other places, you know, like George Peach and Castletown houses. So then, I just wanted to be a gardener.
Yeah.
So Billy Long's nursery progressed, managed to take up motorcycling, but not racing. This was trials where you were travelling around the island and trying to not fall off.
That is an amazing sport for people who don't know what trials riding is. It's that should explain it.
Yeah, it's balance really, isn't it? I mean, Jeff became very good. Yeah. And he wasn't designed to be a trials rider. He was too big and he was too bulky, but his determination saw him through to beat everybody.
You get to get all sorts of you go to places all sorts off the beaten track, don't you? On two wheels to try and get through without putting a dab down, so you don't lose points. Yeah,
you lose one of your thing. If you get the bike through with it still moving forward, you get three and everything. It's all changed now. I mean, they're riding up sides of houses as though it's not there. Like, it's unbelievable.
So Steve Colley was he came up through that lot, didn't he?
He came through that thing and all. The bikes, I was getting interested. The golf, I'd won the championship in 1968. And then I qualified on 23 other occasions to get through to the match play stages, which is no mean achievement.
It's the last 30... No, the last 16.
Last 16,
yeah. Gosh, that's a great record. That's a really good record, that, Roy. Yeah.
There are others around the island who've got better records like that. But
can't think who you're talking about, really.
But by the same token, it's something that's happened, so that would be it.
Yep.
And then, strangely, as it worked out, we did a bit of commentary on the golf, because more often than not, I'd been knocked out early on, so they give me plenty.
Not literally, just for the benefit of our listeners.
Yeah, not physically. This would be
trying to nut a golf ball.
Got drawn against Jay Sutton or somebody in the first round, and he shook hands and said, "I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry I beat you." But then he went on to win it. So they said, "Will you be like a pundit?"
And that was the start of the golf first.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay.
Yeah, golf commentary.
Right.
And then there was a fellow working called Charlie Webster for Manx Radio, and he'd been there from day one.
Yeah.
He'd been there when they set up not Radio TT, where they took over from the BBC for the commentary in 1964, I think it was. Exit Murray Walker and his father and various other ones, and in came Peter Neal, Ian Cannell. Yeah. Would you believe there's a nice connection now? Out at Balaf Bridge was a fella called Ken Leese and his wife.
Yeah.
They are, or were, sadly no longer with us, they were the grandparents of David and Mark Higgins, the rally drivers.
Oh, gosh.
So you had connections. They did the commentary from Balaf Bridge, from the back of a commer van. Then you went up to the bungalow, and Ian Cannell, superb commentator, unflappable, and put the facts over. And that was how that came about. So once I got established in the golf, Charlie Webster said, "You're interested in motorbikes?" I said, "Well, yeah, been brought up on them, so, fair comment." So he said, "We're always short of a commentator for the Manx Grand Prix." So they tried Tom Kind, who was the curator of the wildlife park. They tried George Ferguson. They tried Jolly Body Jackson. They tried everybody, really. Dennis Crane had a dabble, an thing. Adrian Earnshaw was up there for a couple of years, but there was always appeared to be something lacking. Yeah. And they said, "Well, will you ever go at it?" So I said, "Yeah." I said, "Where will we be?" Ballacrane. "Oh, right, that's all right."
Yeah, I remember you at Ballacrane.
Yeah, Ballacrane, Jeff Cannell at Balaf.
Yes, I remember Jeff there too.
And the reason that it worked out for the Grand Prix was that Ian Cannell was a high-ranking official in the Manx Motorcycle Club. Right. And he had to be on duty for the Manx Motorcycle Club, so he had to step down from his commentating duties. Ah, okay. So it was always a lottery as to who was going to get it. But we got tried at Ballacrane. I thought I was absolutely abysmal. But it wasn't too bad, really, because the way things were worked out, they were going to kind of break you in on the Saturday with a couple of races. Then the Monday, the Tuesday then, because that would be the way it would be.
Yeah.
And it just became that the weather was bad Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, and they put all the races on Wednesday, bar one.
Right.
So I came away and I said, I can't do it. But compared to others, apparently, it was quite good.
Yeah.
And you had a bit of input.
Yeah, okay.
You had a bit of, you can't do anything in life without a bit of fun.
No, absolutely not.
That's part. Business is fun. It's not dour round a table.
They say that, don't they? If you do something, when you do work for a living, if you do what you love, then you never do work a day.
It's not work, really, is it? Yeah, right. I mean, there'll be bad days, won't there? And there'll be bad days where you don't want to do something, or you're just the way. But if you can present in a kind of light-hearted way,
yes. Well, and is that the way you carried on in your professional life?
I genuinely stepped back from it and said, "Oh God, what are they going to think?" And Charlie Webster said, to be put under pressure with all those races on the one day and not really be sure, because you had hand timing. There was none of this computer malarkey.
No.
Pat O'Hanlon was alongside me with loads of paper, and I couldn't believe how he wrote everything down. And then people took it as gospel that Sean McStay was leading, or whoever was leading, second, third, and they could get down to about sixth. And then the thing was, that was the priority. Yeah. Get the race order out.
You must have seen some changes then over the years.
Oof, yeah. I mean, it's a doddle now, really, isn't it?
I don't know.
Unless you get a situation where the computer breaks down.
Well, then you've got the brain power there to be able to do it all manually, presumably.
I can talk my way through it. Yeah. And Pat is sat alongside there, and he can still do it.
Yeah, and what's the best way that you learn how the riders look? I mean, do you just know?
No, it's a Grand Prix. Again, was the difficulty.
It's just all the number plates, I guess, is it?
All the numbers they had seeded from 1959. You see, they seeded the TT. Yeah. So you knew all the good fellas would be at the front. Now it's top 20.
Right. Okay.
Your McGuinnesses, your Connor Cummins, and all that are going to be in the top 20, and they all wear the same gear.
Yeah, that's helpful.
And all the bikes are the same. Yeah. If it's a Honda,
it's a brand, isn't it?
If it's a 600 or 1,000, it's exactly the same presentation for the same sponsors. But the Grand Prix, like when I started, Les Trotter he'd won at number 100. There was a fella who won one year at 111.
And the old black leathers.
And the black leathers, no advertising on the fairings. No. You couldn't define them. You had to pick the numbers out.
I suppose you've got to be able to now because it goes so much faster.
Well, yeah, that's not too bad at Ramsey Hairpin. That's because they're coming towards you. Yeah. But they've changed so much. Again, if you're interested in bikes in any way, just look at some of the old photographs of the bikes. Big, large numbers on the front.
No aerodynamics at all.
Now it's all tunnels for charge the carburetors and stuff like airflow and a tiny little number.
Yeah, yeah.
But we got asked to do the TT the following year, so we couldn't have been too bad. I just said, well, that'll be the end of it now, but we stuck with it.
Very good. How does it feel then, as one of the voices that brings you the TT? What sort of career history have you had to be able to?
It's weird, really. Yeah. I mean, we run a little bit of a website called Roy Moore and Barry Wood's Mountain Memories.
Facebook, your Facebook page. Yeah.
Barry has written. Yes. So his stories are from the horses.
Yeah, but you've got riders on there too, actual bikers. It's a brilliant response.
Yeah. Tonight, whatever time, we're going back to do an interview with Kenny Arthur, who is absolute legend on the sidecar passenger and scene. And
how do you do that, on video or?
Yeah, we just link up with them. Call. Yeah, do it live. Again, it's the beauty of people say about different things. They say, "Oh, he's good," and this, that, and then the program comes on called Outtake.
Right.
And then you see this fella trying to get a word out on Manx Radio as part of the team that bring you the TT. It is absolutely live.
Great.
What you see, and that's how it was thumped into me. We had a racing family called the Jacksons staying with us, and they were from Newcastle, and Bob Jackson, Bud Allen, and Andy and Tom, and they all raced. And the old fella raced as well around here in the sidecar. And I got on great with them because others had gone, and I'd be in my little garage just wandering out for me tea or something, and he was telling me stuff. And I said to him, I've got the opportunity when Charlie asked me, I said, to do the commentary. And he was a Geordie, so I won't even attempt a Geordie accent.
No, I don't.
But by the same token, he said, well, tell me one thing, Moot, because he always called me Moot. That was, I think our mothers and fathers were Swedes or something like that. But he said, tell me one thing, Moot. He said, if you get that job, he said, will you do something for me? I said, what's that? He said, and for everybody else. He said, we're listening. It's our only contact with where our rider is. Bearing in mind, this was pre-transponder time or anything like that.
Yeah.
He said, you know how the others have failed? I said, no, what's that? He said, we're listening in to listen for our rider going through so we can relax for the next commentary point.
Yeah, of course.
And he said, no matter whether you only shout the number out, if there's 6 bikes coming together and you see them and go 14, 26, 85, 75 coming towards us here at Ramsey Hairpin, he said, you don't need the name. He said, I'm in the pit. He said, I hear the number.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll be listening to the bike on the pickup and up and saying, yeah, it's running all right or anything like that.
And your ride is safe.
And your ride is safe.
I mean, let's not forget, to any listener who isn't aware of the TT, well, first of all, how are you not? But second of all, if the safety record is, well, it's nuts, isn't it, to go down Bray Hill at 100. Really, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, but the riders do what they love, and
they live the dream.
So your son Peter rides.
Yes, the last thing I would expect, you would have expected, and it was a long story. He got a road bike, and then he went to these track days, and then he felt he was quicker than a lot of the people that were there, and then he felt as though he was safe, and he was confident in his own ability, and he did a couple of races across, and then told me and his mother,
gosh, yeah.
How would you feel if I did the Grand Prix? I said, well, son, it's your life. We didn't bring you in the world to tell you what to do.
So how did you feel?
I got a whole new complex on it.
Yeah.
But having watched him, I was more than confident he wasn't.
You didn't commentate on that, did you?
No, I backed out of that because I couldn't have been down at Ramsey and if he did not come towards us, well, then you were there. But that's, again, another aspect of it, isn't it? I mean, people in the past were dialed into the radio to listen to what we've just talked about, that they wanted to hear how their rider was doing. They weren't worried whether he was winning.
No.
They weren't worried whether he was in the top 20.
Yeah.
But if he went past a commentary point, it would be great. And sometimes I hate the term back marker. And Maurice Maudsley and myself are down at the Southern combined to come up with the thing, a lower order rider. Because that's what they are.
Yeah.
And then you see the results, and they've averaged 105.
It's phenomenal.
And you get on a road bike and you think, I'll just open her up a bit, as George Formby would say. You're doing about 100, and you think, oh God, I can't go this quick. And you go, and they're averaging 105.
It's well.
Roads are closed, yes, but it's insane.
It's highly skillful to do that. Yeah, I've interviewed Connor Cummins on this podcast series too.
Yeah.
And he assures me that he does not close his eyes when he goes down Bray Hill.
Yeah, well,
so I was
imagine,
really, I think I would, but I wouldn't be here to tell the tale. So.
No, he doesn't talk about it. He's a very good golfer too, and he's made a living for himself through golf. Then the money that he earns goes on motorbikes, and we've helped out as well. Like, so as you do, you want to see your family do what they want to do. Yeah,
it's important to present the emotional side of the TT because it's not just all about speed.
Well, the real sadness comes in that we've had 2 tragedies from the little garage that we operate at the back of our house, and the last one is one you don't think you would recover from. It was a fellow who'd been in there for 30 odd years, nearly 25 anyway. Alan Bud Jackson.
Yeah, we mentioned it before, didn't we?
And you try to, it's like saying to an alcoholic, why do you drink, or why do you take drugs or anything like that. The TT in the mountain course was a drug to him. Yeah. And he wasn't in the best of health, but he wanted one last trip over the mountain. And we did give it to him at his funeral, as it worked out, where we went on it was absolutely packed, and there was a load of riders there who would appreciate it, like knowing every bend off the mountain course. We went through a whole lap.
Yes.
And it was just a fitting end to his career, really.
Let's move on to some of the questions that I ask all our guests.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, what's your earliest memory of money when you were growing up?
Lack of it.
Yeah. The batteries,
Batteries.
no money for batteries.
And I can touch the table and say, in all my life, I've not smoked. I never even tried it. My brothers, when they came back, they were chain smokers. My mother was a smoker. My father was a smoker. And they all died relatively young. And if it was a choice between a meat pie and 5 Woodbines, the 5 Woodbines always came out on top.
Right.
So I thought that was, when I started to develop my brain, I thought, and such a dirty habit.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
You know, like people inflict their habit on you. And you see, you only have to look at an old video from the 70s of Top of the Pops or something like that. And there's fellas smoking ahead, or sitcoms, or the Wheel Tappers and Social Shunters Club, where everybody's got a fag and there's bloody smoke.
So finally, the world's come round to the way we think.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
They're talking about pollution, and they're trying to cure the planet, but they've gone a long way to curing it by not banning smoking, because it's a personal choice, to make it more difficult to smoke.
And to inflict it on others.
Yeah. That you don't have to inflict it on others.
No, that's a good point. So, I mean, of all the things that you've done throughout your life so far, what's given you the most personal fulfillment? Yeah,
just as we mentioned before, I think if you go through your working life, I didn't let anybody down in the time. I don't think when I was we had a bit of at Alexander Nurseries with Billy Long, where we had a spell where we were self-employed. We always undercharged, if you can call it that, because you worked on the assumption it wasn't a profit margin in it. You worked for wages.
Yeah, right.
And I worked with some excellent tradesmen, you know, like that had been brought up properly. I did see in the latter part of my working life what were referred to as tradesmen operating.
Yeah.
And I said they wouldn't last 5 minutes in the old days.
Oh, gosh.
Because the fellas that I worked with, Peter Crellin, Keith Smith, Brian, my elder brother Ken, they were all time served. They did 5 years getting bashed around the head for not doing it properly. And there was none of this, so you can't do that. I'll take you to the Court of Human Rights.
Yeah.
All this rubbish.
Yeah, I know.
They got all the worst jobs you can imagine in it. It wouldn't be doing the ceilings or doing the walls. It would be doing the cupboard under the stairs to learn your trade.
Yeah.
And you did do. But another thing that crops up, I've had, as I said before, through your working life and your sporting life and the people you've met, I'm quite happy to walk down Strand Street any day of life and not worried who's coming towards me.
Right.
Not cheated anybody out of money or done anything that I'm not, it's just one of those things.
So honesty and integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
not a bad way to live your life by, is it?
No, I don't think you'll get too many enemies doing it like that way, will you?
No, absolutely not.
I'm retired now, so I can only upset myself, really, when you think about it.
That's Jenny.
we had to go to Ballasalla to find a woman. I had to go down to the Bellevue on a Friday night.
There you go.
Had to take somebody from the other side of the bridge, as they say in Manx speak. But we've done all right. I think we'll be hitting, God, this could be a beauty, couldn't it? If she hears this, and I can't remember, 45 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe even 46 it is, dear me.
46.
September. Yeah,
in September it'll be 46. Okay.
Couple of lads who are known for who they are. They're not, they're twice Island Golf champion and Kevin. Mm-hmm. Just giving us the news at the weekend where we've got one grandchild. It's a difficult thing to be a grandfather at 74 because you haven't got a great deal of time left, so you got to make the most of it.
I don't know. When we do lifetime cash flow analysis of people, we always put them to living to 100. So.
Do you? Oh, it'll be all right. Well, I might make the wedding then.
Yeah,
it would be all right. So
they're both good golfers too. So Kevin, how many times has Kevin been golf champion?
He's been twice, which it's every time he reminds me like. Yeah. But at the same time, it's you can't take the one away from you.
No, it can't. They cannot. That's a pretty good standard. So, what do you do to relax these days? Why do you keep your life in balance now?
Non-stop.
Yeah. Keep busy.
Yeah, 7 o'clock up, make a cup of tea, 7:30 washed. Always have a wash every day.
Okay, so keep yourself good and presentable.
Oh yeah, every day have a shave, and then you know you're right then.
So do your ablutions every day?
We run a website called Roy Moore and Barry Wood's Mountain Memories, and that takes like everything else. Other people have opened websites, and it's the best thing that's ever happened. Then they get fed up.
Yeah.
But
how long has yours been going now?
17 months.
So it kind of coincides with, just before lockdown. And did you see a big upswing in
unbelievable
during that time?
We thought we might get 500 or 600 people.
So how many have you got on it now?
4.5, nearly 5,000.
That's amazing. Gosh.
We've got Peter Hickman, we've got Brian Reid, we've got numerous top men on the TT.
Yeah. So what are the best things about living on the Isle of Man?
The strip of water between here and everywhere else, I would think.
At the minute, yeah.
That would be a very straightforward answer to a straightforward question.
It is a very, yes, okay. So what
But I have no ambition, or didn't have any ambition, to go anywhere else.
No.
If I was going to make a living, I had to do it over here. Once you marry a Manx woman, you're kind of tied anyway, aren't they? Because they've got connections. Jen's mother lived till she was 96.
Yeah.
So you've got responsibility.
Mm-hmm. That underlies a good sense of community in the Isle of Man.
Yeah, it is, and that's why we've survived, isn't it? Like through from the days of rifle shooting, you're known, and it's trust.
Yeah.
It's having a trust in people that, the number of times that people have been ripped off on the Isle of Man is it's there to be done. But by the same token, the number of people who have just gone through business, and because they are absolutely above board and know exactly what they're doing, and they've built up contacts as well. So when people are asking advice of somebody else, maybe a reflection on why things are now, everybody appears to want to be an individual and not consult anybody else. So the fellow that cleaned the drain out 30 years ago down at Tidwell Mills and is still available isn't asked. They might fly in some expert to have a look at it, and then they'll charge them a vast amount of money, and away you go.
Not at the minute, they won't.
No, well, that's it. So there's different things that you do. And,
okay.
Yeah.
What solutions then train from within, I guess? Solutions and opportunities for the Isle of Man?
Experience, I would say, really.
Yeah.
And maybe we've lost out on transformation from, as things have taken over, as computer technology has come in.
Yeah.
You've lost possibly the personal touch.
Yeah. Do you think so here so much, or?
I think in certain instances you would do.
Yeah.
But bank managers.
Oh yeah. Well, that's not just the Isle of Man, is it? That's
when I started playing
global
golf,
thing. Yeah.
You'd virtually bow to the people, the Roy Kanes and Stuart Cleggs and all that, who were bank managers. Harry Kinleys and all that.
No, you have to feel for
they were like royalty.
You'd have to feel for those who relied on their local branches that they're not there anymore. I mean, that's why people like us have jobs.
Yeah, well, I'm not too familiar with your setup. It's got a good name on it, Thornton.
So, Roy, what have you got planned next? We're hoping that the TT goes ahead in 2022 now.
Yeah, we would have been now, and we only posted today, getting kind of worked up about the pre-TT Classic at Balown.
Right.
With all that it has been. We didn't have it last year. It made a decision a long time ago that it wasn't going to happen in 2021.
Yeah.
No TT in 2021.
Yeah.
They are holding out on hope that there's a possibility that they would hold the latter end meeting, the Manx Grand Prix and Classic.
Yeah.
But with Boris saying June, I don't think it's any possibility at all that
people have to make plans early.
People would be happy, travelling. Although then again, it's announced on the news today that Thompson's and Thomas Cook's have never been so inundated with requests to get away.
That's right, Tui as well.
Yeah.
They all are. Well, just this once then, as a special episode for us.
Yeah.
For those who are going to really miss out on the Isle of Man TT, Charlie Garside, who's a golf chum of my husband's, has put together sort of an alternative, a TT for 2021. So Roy, you're going to actually perform this for us. So how would you normally be? Would you normally just hand straight over from Dave at Glen Helen?
No, it would go back to the grandstand.
Okay,
yeah,
so
and then Eunice Cubban.
Eunice would say what? Go on.
30 seconds out.
Okay.
But you would be then aware that Tim Glover would be saying, and now we go over to Ramsey Hairpin because she knows.
Okay, so
to the exact thing that they'd be coming up May Hill.
So with apologies to Tim Glover, it's now time to go over to Ramsey Hairpin and Roy Moore.
Here we are in the Cabinet Office, and a bit of sunlight on the wood block floors with the odd damp patch from a misfiring hand sanitizer. Would not happen in my day with soap on a rope, but that's progress with modern technology. Amazing. A crowd of journalists are eagerly awaiting the First Minister beyond the podium as they come into view down the corridor. We should be expecting them at any moment. OK, here we are, bang on time, it's 4 o'clock. Inside a back marker, unknown civil servant. It is the Marown Massive. The sun glinting on Howard's gleaming head as he leans, taking the tight inside line to the podium. He manoeuvres into position. Smoothly through, he rustles the papers, hits the mute button, up through the microphones, and settles into the climb of mountains of questions. Just behind him, down the corridor, coming into view, is Dr. Henrietta. Certainly a bit apprehensive into the room, but down onto the podium, no problems there, smoothly opens up the full file, looks behind as she tears off the face mask and tucks in behind the screen on the way to the waterworks, or the second podium as we call it. The corridor is silent. Ashley should have been on here corrected time at least, according to Pat O'Hanlon, 10 seconds ago. Silence in the room, 20 seconds, no sign. He is reported as being on Bucks Road. 5 minutes to go. Oh, I understand he has stopped making adjustments to his face mask on Deemster's Walk and has continued. Is this him? Certainly it's the sound of leather-soled shoes with the sheen of the back fairing. Slick hair, yes. The fang glinting from the beam of light through the clouded window as he smoothly moves down the corridor into the shadows. And with that update, it's back to you, Tim, at the Manx Radio studios.
That's correct. That's so good. That's so good. Thanks so much for that. That's been a real pleasure. Is there anything else you want to say before we kind of wrap up?
No, we're not doing too much now. We're not fully aware of what's going to happen in 2022.
Well,
I'll be another year older, and you've got to be realistic about these things. It's all right saying when you're of a certain age that you'll hang on until as long as you can do it, but it's not the way forward, unfortunately.
No.
It's like everything in life.
Well,
there's people coming up through the ranks. If you can get them and train them up, and then they continue on. Maybe, Sharon, like you are in business, you've got a team in position now.
Yeah.
But you've got to make sure that Thornton's in 20 years' time is exactly the same as it is now.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do that, I might be asked to maybe make comment here, there, and everywhere, but for doing actual commentary, maybe 2022 might not be on the agenda, but there again, with all the time that people have had to kind of think about the TT and how it's run, there might be an entirely different company, there might be an entirely different way that they've thought of in the 2 years, that it might be all change anyway.
Yeah.
And technology is always overtaking.
No, it is. Well, hopefully that sort of alternate TT21, or we think we called it the Tynwald Trophy, for COVID updates. Hopefully that'll give our listeners a bit of interim amusement, just to keep them going and put them on for 2022.
That's another thing, isn't it? Motorcycling is an exciting event. You couldn't do a golf coverage like that.
Not really, no. Not without getting thrown off the course.
You'd think. So you're just horses for courses.
Okay, well, just to wrap up then, Roy, perhaps you could just tell us if you've got one. What's your favourite quote?
It's an old Manx saying. There's a couple of them, really. The cemetery's always full of people who can't be done without, which is a Manx saying, isn't it? And that comes to light. And then another one that comes from the archives is, if I wasn't here, I'd be somewhere else. Back to the grandstand.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much, Roy. People can go to learn more about you from on your Facebook page with Barry Woods, and that's called, just again,
Roy Moore and Barry Woods, but it's a private group. Well, not a private, it's open to everybody, but they've got to apply.
Yeah, okay.
And what we've found is that it means that you know who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And any inappropriate, kind
behaviour,
of
hoofed off.
you're
Fair
off.
enough.
We haven't had to do it too often, but
You have been warned.
certainly when we did the TT one, we get involved, and we weren't asked to be involved on that, but somebody would come on at 12 o'clock at night and, for right or wrong, saying the commentary from Ramsey Hairpin's crap, and you didn't have any comeback on it.
No.
So we've got a comeback where people make constructive comments, controversially at times, but that's not a bad thing, and then it moves forward. But you're always on that button. If you step out of line, your history.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, other than that, thanks so much, Roy. It's been a real pleasure interviewing you today.
Yeah, not the best of days, but we've...
What else were you doing on a day like today, huh?
Yeah, well, that's it, you see. That'll be watching the Kilchers in Alaska, the last frontier.
Brilliant. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Island Influencers from Thornton Chartered Financial Planners. To find out more and for useful links, visit thorntonfs.com/podcasts.